Well, hello again, everyone. I'm Joe Osamendi. This is Morning Coffee at RVN Television. And we have this segment right now that I do every month called the Expert Series, sponsored by Workcred and Dr. Roy Swift, who normally is on our call but is away on business this morning. But we have a special guest, as we always do. And my guest for today on the Expert Series on credentialing and certification is Dan Pickel. He's the Director of Certification and Accreditation at the NFPA, which is the National Fire Prevention Association. Welcome to Morning Coffee Expert Series, Dan.
The National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, is a global self-funded nonprofit organization. So our mission is to help save lives and reduce loss with information knowledge. It was started as a Boston-based organization a little over 125 years ago that initially focused on fire sprinkler codes, has grown to become the leading global advocate for the elimination of death, injury, property, and economic loss due to fire, electrical, and related hazards. We currently have a little over 300 consensus codes and standards that are intended to minimize those risks. The codes and standards cover everything from building and electrical safety to emergency response and wildfire management. We also offer extensive training programs, certification programs, which I think we're talking about today,
Right.
and then some other educational resources, which make it a cornerstone for fire prevention and safety efforts.
Okay, interesting enough, I was talking to a friend of mine, and they asked me about, I said I was going to have you on the show today, and somebody asked me, they said, is that part of OSHA? Can you answer that question for me?
I can, yeah. So we're not part of OSHA. OSHA is a separate entity that we do work sort of hand in glove with on certain initiatives, but NFPA is a separate entity from OSHA.
Okay. Who sets the NFPA standards?
So we work with thousands of subject matter experts that relate to all those different code standards. So they'll volunteer their time, and then they help craft these consensus codes. And we also have an extensive membership. So it's not just that the subject matter experts set those codes and standards. We actually have a technical committee meeting every year. It's actually happening next week in Orlando at our conference and expo. And they will vote on changes to codes and standards. So it's not just that it's NFPA or subject matter experts that are creating those codes and standards and setting the standard. It's that we have an extensive membership of individuals that have the opportunity to vote on those changes.
Okay. Is the NFPA available and recognized in all the states?
So we do have codes and standards that are incorporated by reference in all states. I think the one you probably would know the best is the National Electrical Code, or the NEC. So in every one of the 50 states, the NEC, in some form, has been incorporated by reference.
Okay. Do you also have codes for, like, let's say, fire alarms and sprinkler systems?
That's correct, yeah. So we have over 300 codes and standards. Wow. NFPA 1 is the fire code, but we also have codes that relate to hydrogen, the fuel code, wildfire management. There are just a lot of codes and standards that we offer. One of the ones that relates to our certification, NFPA 99, is the healthcare facility code, and that's something that's really important in all healthcare facilities in the U.S. and then abroad.
Okay. I was going to ask you, what industries are probably most influenced with the NFPA?
So, creating our codes and standards, we have so many different types of stakeholders. So there are designers, there are installers, there are inspectors, some of which we have certifications for. Mm-hmm. So something that's really important for NFPA is to ensure that people and property are not at risk of fire. And so we offer several different certification programs that relate to protecting people and property, a couple of which relate to fire inspectors. So those certification programs are meant to ensure that people who are looking at residential or other buildings are properly inspecting them to ensure that those risks are mitigated.
Okay. One of the things we always talked about with Roy and the whole certification system and everything is that it's a certification of these kinds that's an alternative to a 4-year college education. So are those certifications available in a relatively short amount of time?
Yeah, that's correct. Each one has different eligibility criteria. Some of them have some more educational-based eligibility requirements. Some have more experience-based requirements. We have sort of entry-level certifications as well as more professional certifications. Some of them are stackable credentials, so they're meant to provide a pathway for someone to go through their career journey. So there's a fire inspector 1, fire inspector 2, and those are meant to provide, the first one is to ensure that someone has the foundational knowledge to be a fire inspector. The second level is to ensure that they have more of the regulatory, more advanced knowledge and skills related to being a fire inspector. So those have different requirements, but they all don't take as long as a traditional degree program.
Okay. Are these NFPA certifications available through community colleges?
So the certification exams are all available through our vendor, that's Prometric. But we do work with community colleges and with other training providers that are working to ensure that individuals that take one of our exams are prepared for those exams. So you could take a course at a community college related to being a fire inspector or a fire protection specialist. You could take a course related to healthcare facility management, and that would help prepare you for one of our certification exams.
Okay. One of the things I love about certifications, since I've been doing this show with Roy, is that it really mirrors your skills, a skill set that people have, which maybe education doesn't necessarily do that. It measures what you can do academically, but it doesn't necessarily focus on your skill set. And I think that's one of the beauties of the certification process. And also, like you said, you can get through that you can get through that so much easier than with a long period of degree. Can kids just out of high school start these programs?
They can, yeah. I remember when I graduated from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, I went through I got a bachelor's degree in public policy analysis. And there were really high-level courses about policy analysis, statistics, and going through that program, I thought that coming out of there, I would have a job in that industry really quickly.
Right.
And I found out that that wasn't exactly the case. The first job I found, it took a couple months to find, but it was at a car wash. So I worked at a car wash for a while. And honestly, the way that I got that job was because my brother, who didn't have a degree, was managing a car wash.
Wow.
So degree programs aren't always going to give you the skills that you need for the job that you hope to get. Certifications are quite a bit different. So each certification that NFPA develops is based on an actual job role. So we do a lot of analysis, a lot of research, and we find the job roles that connect to NFPA's mission and our vision, and that are real roles. We do something that's called a job task analysis. So we look at that job, we determine, all right, what are all of the knowledge, what's the skills, what are the competencies, what are the behavioral tasks that someone needs to accomplish to be proficient in that role? We build that all out, and then working with subject matter experts, have it validated through the industry, build the exam based on that job role, so that at the end of the process, we have a certification exam that someone who is proficient in that role takes it and should pass, and someone that isn't proficient shouldn't pass, and they need more training, more education, more experience. So it's a way to validate someone's knowledge related to a specific role versus a traditional degree program where you get a lot of really maybe overarching theories or not as much of the application as a certification program.
Well, that's a great way to put it. Exactly. I mean, that's a great way to put that. I also noticed when I was going through your website, you have something called life safety. Can you tell me what that's all about?
We have a lot of different codes and standards that relate to life safety. It's connected to keeping people safe. So the life safety code relates to means of egress in buildings, fire sprinkler systems, protection systems. They're all meant to protect people's lives. That's the life safety code in a nutshell.
Okay. The beauty of this whole thing is I never knew how, with all those codes, it's so complicated, but it seems like a a real opportunity for anybody that wants to get into an industry that might not want to go through a 4-year college. And they can, what are some of the earnings people can make? I mean, people make a good living doing these things?
Yeah, I think what we've seen recently is that skilled trades are making more and more money than they used to. I think, when I was first going to college, the mindset was go to college, graduate, get a great job, and you're set for life. Wasn't my experience. I think it's not most people's experience back then and today as well. The need that we're seeing is for skilled-based roles, so people that are working in electrical safety or healthcare facility management or facility management just in general. People that are working with their hands they're the people that we need right now. Not as many, computer engineers or AI engineers. Like what we're really, striving for is to fill those roles. And the certifications that we're developing in NFPA are meant to provide that validation for individuals that are working with their hands. It depends on where someone's located, how much money they can make, but the purpose of the certifications isn't just to help people who are already making a certain amount. They're meant to help advance their careers. So wherever they are, take a certification, and it's meant to show employers, whether it's your current employer or a future employer, you know what you're doing. And certifications are typically voluntary, which means that if you're going to go through the program, then you have to have a certain amount of initiative and really care about your role. So you go through probably a training program to prepare. You take an exam that is based on a lot of rigorous work that went into it. So they're not easy. And then once you pass, you have to maintain that certification. So every 3 years, you need to prove that you're either still in the industry, you're still continuing to get professional development units. So it's not just a one and done type thing like degree programs. You're continuing to prove that you know what you're doing in that industry. So it's meant to help people not just validate where they are, but validate where they're going and make more money as they're doing.
I'm so glad you brought that up because the one thing that is key, like you get a college degree, boy, you throw your diploma up there, that's it. It's a piece of paper. What a certification program does, it has an opportunity for continuous education, and it means you can always improve on what you're doing. You can always keep your mind sharp, and you can go along with what the industry changes are. And I think that is a super key importance of a certification program.
Yeah, I agree. If you look behind me, you have that diploma from UNC related to public policy analysis. I don't know that if I took any of those finals today that I would pass them. I haven't continued my professional development related to public policy analysis. I've moved on to certification development, so I'm much more in tune with what's going on in that industry than with public policy. So it's a stamp that I had a certain level of knowledge or competence at the time that I graduated, but today I don't. And certifications offer another side of that where you earn it through this rigorous examination, and then you have to continue to show a certification body like NFPA that you are still working toward improving your knowledge. You still have an advanced understanding of the concepts that relate to that job task analysis that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think that is key because, and especially with codes changing and everything like that, and the industry's changing, you have to keep up with what's going on, and that is a key element of being certified. With always having to go back. What is every 3 years? You said that those certs are good for?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
I said every 3 years. You said that they have to be recertified.
That's right. Yeah, all of our certifications have a recertification timeline that's every 3 years, and a lot of them are connected with our codes and standards.
Okay.
So in a code or standard, which they're almost all updated every 3 years, it's an opportunity for us to see how that code has changed, how that standard has changed, and then look at the role and determine, based on what we see changing in that code or standard, how does that connect with changes in the industry, but also what sort of technological changes have happened that people need to be aware of, so that the job task analysis is continuing to be updated and changed over time to reflect what's actually happening in the real world related to that job role.
Okay. Well, we're at the point of our program right now, Dan, and thank you for being here. It's a great interview. I know my viewers are always interested in learning more about certifications and what kind of opportunities are available. So could you please look in your camera there and tell people how they can reach you and who should call you?
Absolutely, yeah. So work at National Fire Protection Association. You can find me, email is the easiest way to get to me. So that's dpickel@nfpa.org. So if anyone has any questions about the certification programs, I'd recommend first going to the website. That's nfpa.org. On there, you'll find a list of our 16 current certifications. We have 2 that are coming out soon. Mm-hmm. So there's a certified electrical inspector certification. We also have one that I'm pretty excited about. That's the wind turbine technician 1 certification. And talking to stakeholders in the renewable energy industry, we found out that working as a wind tech is a really dangerous job. So you're climbing 300 feet in the air, you're working in a confined space, you are working on electrical and mechanical components. We built a certification that is meant to help with instructional design for courses, but also validate people's skills as wind turbine techs. So you can find all that on the website. My email is there as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions about our programs so that people know what the value is and how to move forward with their certification journey.
Dan Pickel, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll both have a shout out to Roy for basically introducing the 2 of us. And thanks again, and thank you for joining me this morning on Morning Coffee and the Expert Series. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Dan.